In this video, we'll review some ways to edit dimensions that we've already drawn. Let's turn off these automatic dimensions first by going to Display Options, and I'll type the letter D to jump down alphabetically and turn off their display. So now we'll only see the manual dimensions that we draw. And I'll click the tool and drag here, and notice there's no feedback. There's a line but no numbers, no extensions, and if I let go, no dimension takes place. But if I get closer, within a certain limit, then we will get the feedback as we draw, and the extensions will appear. And this is due to a property called reach. So let's go to defaults for dimensions and double click on dimensions here and pick the available dimension default. The one we're using would be the quarter scale dimension defaults, so I'll double click to edit those. Here's reach in the setup panel. It's set to 24 inches, and it means that when you drag to draw the dimension line, Chief Architect will look 2 feet or 24 inches to either side of the line you're drawing and pick up any available references. So we'll cancel out of this and we'll select this dimension. In dimension mode, just left click anywhere and you will get a large drag handle where you click. So if I click here, I'll get it here, and it allows me to move the dimension to or from the wall, in this case, that it's referencing. You'll also see small square drag handles at each number. This allows you to easily move the numbers around to avoid clutter on your screen. Notice also that each extension is numbered, and each extension has a diamond-shaped handle at its end. And you can adjust the extensions. Notice I place the cursor over this one. I get a two-way arrow, and I can drag left or right. And if I move down along the wall, I'll start getting snaps. And when I get a snap that I can extend an extension to, I'll see the feedback. So there, I've moved this one to there. I'll now move it back to the center or over to this side. And you'll find at the ends of windows, you'll have several places you can reference. You can extend out to the trim, to the outside of the casing, to the inside of the window. And you can remove extensions. So for example, if I didn't want this one, I could just drag this diamond away and remove it entirely. You can always replace ones you've removed by grabbing and dragging and getting the snap that you want. And this is always available here next to the big square drag handle. So it's easy to find and access, and you can add many extensions in this manner and remove them as well. As we saw with the window, it's sometimes valuable to be in close. Here's another example of that out at the end, where we're extending to and snapping to a reference at the outside of the main layer in this case. But we can grab the diamond-shaped handle and move it out to the end of the wall, or to the middle of the wall, or a little bit more to the middle of the main layer of the wall, to the inside of the main layer, and to the innermost surface of the wall. So there are several options out here on the end. Note that if we were to try and drag it beyond the wall, there would be no other references to snap to, because the dimensions don't snap to the grid. They have their own snapping guidelines which relate only to possible references that a dimension can snap to. If you do let go out here, having dragged that extension out, you simply remove it. And of course we know we can find the diamond handle and put it back at the location we desire. You can also rotate a dimension. You'll find a triangular handle and you can drag it to rotate the dimension. And we have some edit tools we can apply to dimensions as well. For example, the Make Parallel or Perpendicular tool can be used in this case to realign this dimension with the wall. Notice as I move the cursor, I get different feedback lines indicating where the dimension will become parallel or perpendicular. So here, for example, it would become parallel to the wall that the line is parallel with, and here it would become perpendicular to the wall and the line. So let's go here. The appropriate one would be this one, click, and it's now parallel to the wall again. Another useful edit tool is the Edit Extensions tool. And notice the extensions in this case all have diamond-shaped handles. But when you click the tool, now you have square handles, and you can edit the individual extensions themselves. You can edit them individually in this manner. You can also edit them by opening up the selected dimension line, going to the Extensions and Markers panel, and choosing the extension that you want to select. So for example, I'll choose number 6 over here. And then if I uncheck Use Default, number 6 is free to be modified to some of these other situations. For example, I could say the gap from the marked object, the endpoint of the wall here, should be 3 feet or 36 inches. And when I click OK, that will happen, but only to the one extension. Now let's reopen this and go back to the Extensions Markers panel and choose any extension. Again, I'll just use the 6 and change the rule this time to say that the length towards the marked object from the extension line should be 12 inches. And I'm going to say apply to all, so it won't apply just to the one selected extension. And now all of them have been modified in this manner. Notice we're still in Edit Extension mode, but now we have this tool available, returning us to the main edit mode if we click it, and we'll see the diamond handles again. Of course, all of these settings and properties can be applied as defaults, and then any dimension marked to use the default will follow the rules that you've set up in your defaults. Now let's go to the arrow panel and decide we're going to change the fill color. I'll just pick a red color for the fill color of the arrow, but we also need to choose an arrow style that has a fill color, that does have a fill, so I'll pick this one for example. And we can change the size and other properties, and again all of these can be set up as default values. And now let's move this selected dimension inside the building. I'll press Escape to deselect it, and we'll restore our automatic dimensions. I'll go to Display Options, find the Automatic Dimensions layer and display it, and these dimensions we had at the beginning are now back. I'll select this automatic dimension and open it. So I'm essentially editing it now. Let's just go to the arrow panel and choose a different arrow style. So this one dimension has been edited in some manner. And now let's regenerate our automatic dimensions. So when I click, all of the auto exterior dimensions will recalculate and make any necessary changes based on changes in defaults or other objects added. But notice we still have the square blue arrow style here. It hasn't updated. So let's select and move this out. And this one is the new automatically generated dimension that matches the style and properties of the others. And this is the one that we had edited, because when you edit an automatic dimension, it changes it from automatic to manual, and it's not automatically refreshed. It remains. And so you may wish to delete any of the automatic dimensions that you have edited if you want to regenerate the automatic dimensions and replace them. So we have a nice array of dimension editing capabilities that allow us to create dimension styles that we like to use in our plans, details, sections, and so forth.